I want to start today with a little experiment.
Oh,
It's a bit of a brain teaser, but I promise you it goes somewhere really, really fascinating.
I'm intrigued. Hit me.
So I'm going to give you two phrases. Now, these two phrases, they mean the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Logically, semantically, they're identical. They describe the same reality. But I want you to tell me, and just, gut check, no overthinking, which one feels more true.
Okay, gut check. I'm ready.
All right, here's phrase number one. Woes unite enemies.
Woes unite enemies. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Right.
It's a clear statement. A bit dry, maybe, but I get it. Shared suffering brings people together. That's the core idea.
Exactly. Now, wipe that from your mind for a second, okay?
Oh, I get it.
Here's phrase number two. Woes unite foes.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that hits different.
It does, right? Be honest. Which one felt deeper? Which one felt like it carried, I don't know, the weight of ancient wisdom?
Oh, it's definitely the second one. Woes unite foes.
That's it.
It clicks. It feels like a lock snapping into place.
Yeah.
It feels finished. Complete.
Exactly. And here is the kicker. Studies, specifically a fascinating one I was reading by researchers McGlone and Tofi Baksh, they show that when people are presented with those two options, they overwhelmingly rate the rhyming version.
The foes one.
The foes one, yes. They rate it as being more insightful, more accurate, and you could argue more truthful than the non-rhyming version.
Even though,
and I really want to double click on this, they say the exact same thing.
this is the perfect entryway into the rabbit hole we're exploring today, isn't it?
It really is.
We're looking at a phenomenon researchers call the rhyme as reason effect. But honestly, if we just stopped at rhymes, we'd be missing the forest for the trees.
Oh, completely. That's just the surface level.
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
A very catchy tip, but still just the tip.
It really is. We are going deep today into why the human brain mistakes aesthetic quality. Things like rhyme, rhythm, symmetry, even just confidence for truth.
Right.
We're talking about what's called the illusion of understanding. It's the reason why a catchy slogan feels like a well-thought-out policy.
Mm-hmm.
It's why a really confident speaker feels like a competent leader. And it's why so often we walk around feeling like we totally get how the world works.
Oh, I know this feeling.
Right up until the moment someone asks us to explain it step by step.
And your brain just goes completely blank.
Total blank.
And that is the mission of this deep dive. We've got a massive stack of research here. Cognitive science papers, notes on social dynamics, a bit of evolutionary psychology.
The real mix.
And what we want to do is distinguish between something that actually explains reality and something that just makes reality feel settled.
Ooh, that's a great way to put it.
Because those are two very, very different sensations, aren't they?
Completely different.
Yeah.
But our brains are just wired to confuse them constantly. One feels like a satisfying meal, and the other feels like reading a recipe.
And we keep mistaking the menu for the meal.
Always.
Definitely.
Every time.
So let's map this out for you. We're going to break this down into layers, starting from let's say, the micro and moving to the macro.
Sounds good.
We'll start with the form-how language. Just the sheer sound and shape of it hacks the brain.
The rhymes and slogans.
Exactly. Then we're going to get into the cognition, the illusion of explanatory depth, which is a personal favorite of mine because of how embarrassing it is when you catch yourself doing it.
It's deeply humbling.
It is. Then we move to the social side, why confidence looks so much like competence.
And why that's such a dangerous shortcut.
For sure. And finally, we have to talk about what to actually do with this information. Because once you see it, once you realize that so much of our public conversation is just vibes masquerading as logic, you hit a fork in the road.
You really do.
You can become incredibly cynical thinking everyone is a fraud.
Which is tempting.
Very tempting. Or you can become incredibly curious. And we want to try and, steer the ship toward curiosity today.
I think we have to. It's the only way to stay sane.
Okay, so let's dive into the mechanics first. Rhyme as reason. We started with the woes unite foes example, which is great.
A classic.
But this goes way beyond just nursery rhymes or little aphorisms. This is about the fundamental structure of how we process information, right?
It is. It's really deep in the wiring. If you look at any statement, any claim, you can see it has two distinct components.
Okay.
You've got the content. That's the actual claim, the evidence, the meat of the argument. That's the what?
The substance.
The substance. But then you have the form. That's the packaging, the rhythm, the balance, the alliteration, the font it's written in, even the volume it's spoken at. That's the how.
And in a perfect world, a world of Vulcans, we would judge the content and completely ignore the form.
We'd be rational robots.
We just strip mine the logic and throw away the packaging.
In a perfect world, yes.
Oh.
But we aren't. We are biological machines, and honestly, we're running on some pretty outdated software.
I feel that every morning.
The problem is our brains are, well, lazy might be a bit harsh. Let's say efficient.
We're cognitive misers. We love a shortcut.
We live for shortcuts. And the biggest shortcut in the brain is a concept called cognitive fluency.
Cognitive fluency.
This is really the core mechanism for almost everything we're going to talk about today. Cognitive fluency just means how easy is this information to process?
How much work is it?
Exactly. How much glucose does my brain have to burn to understand what's coming at me right now?
So if it's easy to read or easy to say or easy to remember?
The brain tags it with a specific positive feeling, little gold star.
Okay.
And that feeling is familiarity. And here is where the wire gets crossed. Familiarity feels a hell of a lot like truth.
Wait, unpack that a bit. Why does easy to process get mapped onto truth in the brain? That seems like a really dangerous glitch.
It is a glitch, but it's a glitch with an evolutionary history. It's a heuristic, a rule of thumb.
A shortcut that worked most of the time.
Right. Generally, in our evolutionary history, things that were true or safe were often repeated. Patterns that were consistent, like red berries bad, green berries good, or red sky at night, sailor's delight, became familiar.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the brain started using processing speed as a proxy for validity. It's a quick and dirty check. If the sentence flows smoothly, if it rhymes, if it has a nice cadence, the brain says, oh, I've processed this quickly. I didn't have to fight it. It must be right.
Whereas if I stumble over a sentence or if the grammar is all clunky, my brain goes, whoa, this is hard work. Red flag. Something must be wrong here.
Exactly. It's friction. When you hear woes unite foes, the rhyme acts like a lubricant.
Ah, okay.
It just slides into your brain without any friction. And your brain interprets that lack of friction as validity.
So it's like the packaging is so nice, we just assume the product inside must be high quality.
It's the halo effect applied to sentences, pure and simple.
It reminds me of that Keats line, beauty is truth, truth beauty.
Which is a beautiful line, and it proves its own point perfectly.
Great.
We accept it because it's beautiful, not necessarily because it's a logically sound statement about epistemology.
If he had written, aesthetic appeal often correlates with factual accuracy under certain conditions, nobody would be quoting it.
Not a chance. It wouldn't be on a tote bag.
It's pattern hunger too, isn't it? We seem to be desperate for pattern.
Oh, absolutely. Humans are pattern-seeking missiles. We evolved to find patterns because patterns usually mean survival. A footprint is a pattern that means food or danger. A cloud formation is a pattern that means rain.
So we're hardwired for it.
We're hardwired to see a pattern and assume it means something. So when we hear a sentence that is perfectly balanced, something like X and Y or this, not that, it triggers a sense of completeness.
It feels like a closed loop. It feels neat. The equation is balanced.
Yes. Symmetry suggests order. Order suggests intention. And intention suggests meaning. So when a phrase is symmetrical, we unconsciously think, this must reflect a structured, deep truth about the world.
Even if logically it's completely empty or just plain wrong.
Especially then. The form hides the flaws in the content.
Let's look at some everyday examples of this, because this isn't just about poetry or high-level philosophy. This is everywhere.
It's in the water.
One that popped out in the research was, no pain, no gain.
The classic example. The gym motto.
I say it to myself every single time I'm on the treadmill and I want to die.
We all do. It's catchy, it's punchy, it's got that internal rhyme with pain and gain. But is it true?
I mean, intuitively, yes, it feels true. You have to work hard to get results.
Sure, in a broad metaphorical sense of effort leads to reward. But if we take it literally, medically, physiologically,
Probably not great advice.
it's actually terrible advice. Pain is often a sign of injury, of a torn ligament, of a stress fracture. If you feel a sharp pain while lifting, you should stop immediately.
Right.
But no pain, no gain is a rhyme. It feels like a law of thermodynamics. It feels so true that it overrides the actual biological reality of your body screaming at you.
So if we rephrased it to something more accurate, like, if you don't struggle, you won't improve.
It's still true. Maybe even more accurate.
But it's boring. It doesn't have that bumper sticker power.
It doesn't feel like a commandment. The rhyme gives it an authority it hasn't earned. It transforms it from a piece of advice into an immutable maxim.
Okay, what about finders, keepers, losers, weepers?
That is my favorite one. It's so brazen.
It's the law of the playground.
Imagine a lawyer trying to argue that in a court of law. Your Honor, my client relies on the sacred precedent of finders v. keepers.
They'd be held in contempt.
It's ridiculous. It's theft. But on the playground, and even deep in our adult subconscious, the rhyme gives it a weight that the logic just doesn't support.
So it frames a moral claim, I found it, so it's mine, as if it were a natural law like gravity.
Yes, and it also adds that little sing-song taunt at the end, losers, weepers, which kind of bullies you into accepting it. It's a very effective, if unethical, piece of linguistic technology.
So how do we spot this in the wild? Is there a tool or a mental trick to separate the rhyme from the reason? Because I feel like I fall for this all the time.
There's a great tool from the research that I absolutely loved. It's called the reverse it test, or maybe the de-rhyme it test.
The reverse it test. Okay.
If you want to know if you're being seduced by the form or the actual logic, you try to flip the phrase or just remove the rhyme and see if it still feels profound.
So for woes unite foes, you just change it to woes unite enemies.
And suddenly, all the magic is gone. It's just a statement. It's open to debate.
Yeah, you immediately start to question it.
You might think, do they? Sometimes woes make enemies blame each other and fight even more. You start analyzing the content because the form isn't blinding you anymore.
You've turned off the special effects so you can actually look at the script.
That's a perfect way to put it. You're no longer distracted by the pyrotechnics.
Okay, I want to pivot this to something a bit more high stakes. We have to talk about politics.
The ultimate arena for this stuff.
It really is. Now, a quick disclaimer for you listening. We are not taking sides here. The research was super clear that this happens across the entire political spectrum. This is a human brain thing, not a partisan thing.
Absolutely. Every ideology uses these structures because every ideology needs to mobilize people, and these structures are incredibly efficient for that.
If you want to move a crowd, you don't use a nuanced paragraph. You use a chant.
You never see a protest sign with a footnote.
No. So let's look at some of the examples the source material highlighted. And again, we're analyzing the structure, not the validity of the policy. Let's start with a more right-leaning or conservative example. Raised right. You see this on hats, on shirts. I was raised right.
This is a fascinating one because it's doing double duty. It's a pun.
Right.
It's linking political correctness being on the right with moral correctness being raised properly. It feels like a checkmate because it's so linguistically tidy. It folds two completely different concepts into one simple word.
It's like a verbal magic trick. By the time you've even unpacked the pun, the statement has already landed in your brain as a fact.
Exactly. But if you apply our test, if you strip away the cleverness, what does the argument actually say?
My political views are correct because my parents taught them to me.
Which, as an argument, is incredibly weak. I mean, people are raised with all sorts of values. Some people are raised to be racists. Some are raised to be pacifists. Being raised a certain way doesn't make those values empirically true or morally good. The pun just hides the weakness of the underlying argument.
Another one from that side of the aisle was faith, family, freedom.
Oh, the rule of three. The brain loves the number 3. It feels stable.
And the alliteration with the F sound?
Yes. It feels complete. It feels like a stable stool with 3 legs. It's satisfying to say. But pause for a second. Logically, do those 3 things always go together harmoniously?
Well, no, not necessarily. History is just full of examples where faith, or at least organized religion, has restricted personal freedom.
Or where family obligations, the duty to your parents or children, limit your individual freedom.
Of course.
There are massive, complex trade-offs between those 3 concepts. A political philosopher would spend a lifetime untangling them. But the slogan, faith, family, freedom, just bundles them together in a package that feels seamless.
It hides the tension.
It completely hides the tension. It makes you feel like you can have all 3 at maximum volume with no conflict whatsoever.
Okay, so let's be fair and flip to the left. What about a slogan like love is love?
This is a classic tautology. A is A. It's a statement that is true by definition.
It's circular logic.
It is. Love is love.
Yeah.
Now, emotionally, it's incredibly powerful. It served as a really effective rallying cry for marriage equality, for the legitimacy of all relationships. I am not arguing against the sentiment at all.
No, we're talking about the structure.
The structure.
Yeah.
And logically. It just restates itself. It doesn't actually argue a position. It affirms an identity. It's a declaration.
And it works because it's simple, it's perfectly balanced, and it's logically irrefutable. How can love not be love? You can't argue with it.
Right. If you try to argue gay marriage should be legal because the definition of marriage has evolved historically and equal protection under the law requires, you've already lost the crowd. Love is loving. Shortcuts the entire complex legal and historical argument.
It goes straight to the emotional center.
Precisely.
What about another one? Silence is violence.
That's a powerful one. It uses the rhyme, or at least the near rhyme and assonance, to compress a very complex and I would say controversial moral claim into 3 words.
Right.
It's equating inaction with active harm. Now, you could write a whole dissertation on whether that is true or false. It's a deep philosophical question about bystander ethics and moral obligation.
Sure, there are entire books on that.
But the slogan bypasses the dissertation. The rhyme makes the connection feel immediate and absolute. It removes all nuance. Is silence always violence? In every context. The slogan says yes, absolutely.
So these slogans, whether it's Make America Great Again or No Justice, No Peace or My Body, My Choice, they aren't really arguments, are they?
No. And that is the absolute key takeaway here. They aren't meant to persuade outsiders.
So what are they for?
They are passwords. They are handshakes.
Handshakes.
Yeah, they signal to your in-group, I am one of you. I share your values. I get it. They reinforce identity and build solidarity within the tribe.
The mistake we make, the illusion part, is thinking that because a slogan is catchy and powerful, it is also a valid explanation of how the world works.
That's the trap. Slogans are good at expressing values, but they are terrible at explaining reality.
That distinction is huge. Explaining values versus explaining reality, because reality is messy and slogans are clean.
Reality is messy. Reality is full of trade-offs and complexity.
Reality rarely rhymes.
I love that. Reality rarely rhymes. We should put that on a t-shirt.
But then we'd be doing the exact same thing.
We'd be falling into our own trap. We'd be using a catchy slogan to denounce slogans. It's very meta, but it's still the same mechanism at work.
It's inescapable.
It really is.
Okay, let's move to the next layer of this onion. We've talked about form, the catchy words and phrases. Now let's talk about what happens inside the brain when we think we understand something, but we actually don't.
This is the illusion of explanatory depth.
And this one stings a little when you first learn about it.
This is one of my favorite psychological concepts because it is so deeply humbling. It effectively ruins your confidence in your own intelligence, which I think is a healthy thing for everyone to experience.
A little dose of humility.
A strong dose. The basic idea is that we all walk around with a feeling of understanding that is vastly, comically larger than our actual understanding.
We feel like we know how the world works.
We do. We feel competent. We feel knowledgeable, right up until the moment we're asked to explain it.
The source material highlights a classic experiment here involving toilets, which honestly is the perfect object for this.
It's so perfect because it's something we use every day. It's mundane. We think we know it.
Of course I know how a toilet works.
So the researchers, Rosenblatt and Kiel, did this study back in 2002. They'd ask people, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you understand how a toilet works?
People say.
A 9. A 10. Of course. I use one every day. It flushes, water goes down, the handle thingy lifts, the flapper thingy, it's easy. They're very confident.
And then the researchers say, great, here's a piece of paper and a pencil, draw the mechanism.
Show us. Draw exactly where the water goes from the tank to the bowl and out of the house. Draw the trap. Explain how the gravity siphon is triggered. Explain how the tank refills and then stops at exactly the right level.
And that is the precise moment when the blood drains from your face.
Total panic. People draw these impossible machines. They draw pipes that go nowhere. They have water defying the laws of physics. They realize they know that it works and they know what it does, but they have absolutely no idea how the mechanism functions.
And this is called the mechanism gap.
The mechanism gap. We have a gap where the detailed causal understanding should be.
I'm trying to do this in my head right now. For a bicycle, I'm thinking about the chain and the gears, and I'm realizing I don't actually know how changing gears works. Like, what does the little lever actually do?
Right. Or a zipper. How does a zipper work? How does that little wedge perfectly interlock and separate the teeth? It feels like magic. We know the inputs and the outputs, but the process in the middle is a complete black box.
And that's fine for toilets and zippers, but the scary part is that we do this with everything.
Oh, this is not just about plumbing. This applies to the most complex and important systems in our lives.
We do this with the economy, we do this with climate change, we do this with foreign policy.
Exactly. We use labels to cover up our mechanism gaps. This is the label illusion. We confuse naming something with actually explaining it.
Okay, give me an example of a label acting as an explanation.
All right, let's take the housing market. Someone asks, why is housing so expensive in this city? And you say, well, it's just market forces, supply and demand.
That feels like a complete answer. It sounds knowledgeable. It sounds like I know economics.
It feels like a complete answer. It shuts down the inquiry. But if I then ask, okay, walk me through the specific mechanism. Which supply constraints are most important? Is it zoning laws? Is it the cost of lumber? Is it a shortage of skilled labor? And on the demand side, how does that interact with interest rates in this specific quarter? And how do private equity firms buying up starter homes impact the median price for first-time buyers?
Suddenly I'm sweating like the guy trying to draw the toilet.
Right. Because unless you're an economist who studies this stuff, you can't go to that next level of detail. But market forces felt like a sufficient explanation.
So we use these labels as stop signs for our thinking.
They are the ultimate stop signs. It's systemic racism, it's trauma, it's just human nature, it's common sense.
Oh, common sense is the ultimate one, isn't it?
Oh, it's the best. It's the king of all stop signs. Because it says, this is so obvious I don't even need to explain it, and if you don't get it, you're an idiot. But so often, those labels are just categories. They're just buckets we throw the problem into, so we don't have to look at the actual machinery inside the bucket. We think we've unpacked the box, but we've really just put a nice new sticker on the outside of the box.
So we have these different illusions that are all overlapping and reinforcing each other. We've got the fluency illusion. It sounds clear and simple, so it must be clear and simple. We've got the narrative illusion. It makes a good story, so it must be a true causal model.
The story feels right.
And then the consensus illusion. Everyone else in the room seems to get it, so I must get it too.
And that consensus illusion is so powerful, especially in meetings or classrooms. If everyone around you is nodding when someone says, well, it's just late-stage capitalism, you nod too.
Of course. You don't want to be the one person who looks confused.
You assume they all have the detailed mechanism in their heads, and they assume you have it in yours. But usually, nobody has the mechanism. We're all just sharing the label.
It's a circle of nodding, a conspiracy of shallow understanding.
That's a great name for it, and we all participate in it every day.
So how do we bust this? If I'm listening to this and I want to know if I actually understand something or if I'm just parroting a label I heard, what do I do? How do I test myself?
You have to become a friendly interrogator of yourself and others. You have to gently probe the mechanism. The source material suggests a kind of listener toolkit.
A toolkit, I like that.
The most powerful question you can ask of yourself or others is the simplest one. How does X cause Y? Step by step.
Step by step, that's the key part, not just a vague connection.
Step by step. You don't accept, well, the system causes it. You ask, okay, which part of the system? Acting on which people? With what specific incentive? And what happens next? You force the conversation down from the abstract, cloudy level to the concrete, mechanical level.
You force them to draw the plumbing.
You force them to draw the plumbing, and you'll be amazed how often people can't and how often you can't.
Another great question from the notes was, when is this not true?
Oh, I love the boundary question. This is a hallmark of real expertise. Real understanding implies knowing the limits and boundaries of an idea.
What do you mean?
Well, if you really understand gravity, you also understand where gravity stops being the dominant force like on the quantum scale. If you think an idea explains everything everywhere all at once, you probably have a slogan, not a scientific theory.
So you're looking for the edge cases, the exceptions.
The exceptions prove the rule because they define the edges of the rule. If someone can't name a single situation where their big idea doesn't apply, they probably don't understand it that deeply.
And finally, the toolkit says to ask for trade-offs.
What do we lose if we pursue this value all the way? Because in the real world, there are always trade-offs. There are no free lunches.
In slogan world, there are only solutions.
Exactly. In slogan world, everything is a win-win. In reality, every policy, every decision is a series of compromises. Asking about the trade-offs forces that reality back into the conversation.
That is a really good check. If someone is presenting a solution with zero downsides, it's probably an illusion.
Or a sales pitch. Usually both.
Right. And this brings up a really interesting paradox. Real understanding, the kind that can answer those tough questions, it usually softens your certainty, doesn't it?
It almost always does. That is the great irony of knowledge. The more you actually understand a complex system, the less confident you usually sound.
You start using weasel words?
You start saying, it depends, and under these specific conditions, and, well, the data is mixed, but it suggests.
Which is terrible for a TV soundbite.
It is awful for TV. It makes you sound weak and indecisive. But it's great for getting closer to the truth. The illusion of depth is what creates that fierce, angry certainty you see so often.
Why is that?
Because when you challenge a shallow idea, the person has no mechanism to fall back on. They can't explain the how, so they have to defend the what with pure volume and emotion.
They get defensive.
They get defensive and they get loud. Anger is often a defense mechanism for a lack of explanatory depth. It's a way of saying, don't ask me to draw the toilet.
This transitions perfectly into our next section. Confidence versus competence. Because if real understanding makes you sound less certain, then why do we instinctively follow the most confident person in the room? Why do we elect the loudest shouter? It seems completely backward.
It is backward, but it's a backwardness with a deep history. This is an evolutionary hangover. To understand this, we have to go back to the savannah. We have to go back to when we were hunter-gatherers living in small tribes.
Okay, set the scene for me.
Imagine you're in a survival situation. The stakes are life and death. You're with your tribe, foraging. Suddenly, there's a rustle in the tall grass.
Okay, my heart's already beating faster.
One person in your group, let's call him the competent one, says, I think based on the wind patterns and the likely migration of the local fauna, it could be a saber-toothed tiger, but it might also be a gazelle, or perhaps just the wind. Further data is required before we commit to a course of action.
And while he's saying that, the other guy, the confident one, just screams, "Run! It's a tiger!"
Exactly. Who do you listen to?
I'm already halfway up a tree. I'm listening to the screamer.
Of course you are. In a crisis, hesitation is fatal. False positives running when there is no tiger are cheap. You just get a little tired. False negatives staying put when there is a tiger are deadly.
You get eaten.
You get eaten. So our brains evolved a powerful heuristic. Certainty equals safety. Certainty equals competence. If they sound sure, they must know what they're talking about. Follow them.
But we aren't on the savannah anymore. Most of our decisions are in boardrooms and voting booths and PTA meetings.
And that is the great mismatch of modern life. Our wiring is for the savannah, but our environment is the office park. In the modern world, you can learn to sound certain without having the knowledge to back it up.
It's a performance.
It's a performance.
Yeah.
You can master the deep tone, the steady cadence, the lack of hesitation. We mistake the feeling of confidence, which is an internal psychological state of the speaker, with the reality of competence, which is about external accuracy and results.
The source material calls this the inverted signal of expertise. And this ties into the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? I feel like Dunning-Kruger is the most cited and maybe least understood concept on the internet.
It really is. Everyone thinks Dunning-Kruger just means stupid people think they're smart. But the nuance is so much more interesting than that.
So what's the real nuance?
It's that beginners lack the knowledge to see their own gaps. If you only know a little bit about a topic, the landscape looks simple and flat, so you feel very high certainty. Just fix the economy by printing more money. It feels obvious because you can't see the second and third order effects.
You don't know enough to know what you don't know.
That's the perfect summary. You are at the peak of Mount Stupid, as the charts often label it.
A wonderful place to be.
But the expert, the person who's been studying it for 20 years, they see the cliffs and the valleys and the hidden crevasses. They see the inflation risks, the currency devaluation, the supply chain lags, the complex behavioral economics factors. So the expert says, well, it's complicated.
And to the uninitiated listener, it's complicated sounds like weakness. It sounds like they don't actually know the answer.
So we end up in this bizarre situation where the truly competent speaker says, it depends on the constraints and the risks, and that feels annoying and unsatisfying.
And the merely confident speaker says, just do X, it's the best way, trust me, and that feels decisive and satisfying.
We crave the certainty, even when it's baseless.
And confidence is contagious. This is the scary part when you get into group dynamics.
It is. Confidence sets the anchor for the room. If someone walks into a meeting and says with total conviction, this is absolutely the right strategy, that statement becomes the baseline reality for the conversation.
And to disagree with them requires a huge amount of social effort.
A huge amount. It feels like disruption. It feels like you're being difficult.
You have to be the buzzkill. You have to be the one slowing down the momentum and introducing all this friction and doubt.
And most people, socially, are risk averse.
Yeah.
We don't want to be the difficult one. So the confident, shallow idea often wins the day just because it claimed the space first and loudest. It occupies the territory before the more competent, nuanced idea can even put its shoes on.
This is a huge distinction that we need to hammer home for everyone listening. Confidence is how someone feels about their belief. It's psychological.
Right.
Competence is how well that belief actually maps to reality. It's empirical.
And those two things have almost zero correlation in many modern contexts. You can have 100% confidence and 0% competence. In fact, as we've said, they often inversely correlate.
So a good rule of thumb might be the more confident someone is about a really complex topic, the more skeptical you should probably be.
That is a very safe bet.
So why don't we speak up more? This brings us to part 4. The social glue. We've all been there. It's the dinner party scenario.
Yes.
You're at a dinner party or a Zoom meeting or a family gathering. Someone drops a simplistic slogan, or they explain something with total confidence, but you know they're wrong. You can see the flaw. You know it's just a rhyme is reason trick or a label illusion, but you just sit there, you sip your drink, and you nod. Why do we do that?
It is so painfully relatable. There are a few very powerful forces that are basically pinning your mouth shut in that moment.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, there's cognitive load. A deep, nuanced explanation is expensive for the brain, both for you to formulate and for everyone else to listen to.
Right. To correct my uncle at Thanksgiving, I have to drag the entire table into a 15-minute seminar. I have to say, actually, Uncle Bob, let's look at the historical data on that.
And nobody wants that. The slogan is cheap, energy-wise. It flows. It keeps the conversation light. If you interrupt and say, actually, the causal mechanism is far more complex than that, you are demanding that everyone shift gears from social cruising to heavy analytical work.
And people resent that. You're killing the vibe.
You are absolutely killing the vibe. You're turning the party into a lecture. That's the second force, social friction.
Yeah.
We instinctively prioritize the relationship and the harmony of the group over being factually correct in that moment.
We optimize for social harmony.
We do, and there's this fascinating concept from social psychology called pluralistic ignorance, which explains this beautifully.
Pluralistic ignorance. Okay.
Imagine a room of 10 people. Someone says something shallow but confident. All 10 people in that room privately think to themselves, that sounds like BS to me.
But because nobody speaks up.
Exactly. Because nobody speaks up, everyone looks around the room and sees 9 other people nodding politely.
So I look at you nodding, and I think, well, the expert over there seems to agree with it, so I must be the one who's missing something.
And I'm looking at you nodding, thinking the exact same thing. So the group acts as if there's a consensus, even though privately, literally nobody agrees. It is a phantom consensus.
Wow.
And this phantom consensus is what sustains these illusions for a very long time in groups and organizations.
So we're all just satisficing? Is that the term?
Yes, satisficing. It's a blend of satisfying and sufficing. We are accepting an explanation that is good enough to keep the conversation moving, rather than stalling out the whole social interaction to find the absolute capital T truth.
It's like we have 2 modes. Bonding mode and problem-solving mode.
That's a great way to frame it.
In bonding mode, truth matters way less than connection and flow. Slogans are great for bonding. They're like social lubricant.
Yes. Pass the salt, and we need to fix the system. Can function very similarly in a dinner party context. They're just things you say to keep the interaction looping smoothly.
The danger comes when we stay in bonding mode, when we should be in problem-solving mode.
That's the whole problem. If we're deciding on a multi-million-dollar budget or a new law or a medical treatment for a loved one, bonding doesn't help. You need truth. You need the friction. You need to question the slogans.
Okay, let's talk about the environment we are all swimming in now. Part 5. Is this actually getting worse? Because it really feels like everyone is just shouting slogans at each other. It's 147 now.
It's a complicated answer. On one hand, no. Human nature hasn't changed. We have always loved proverbs, chants, religious mantras. We've always been pattern seekers who fall for this stuff.
Right.
This isn't a new flaw in our species.
So we're not getting dumber?
We're not getting dumber. But the environment has changed drastically, and it's changed in 3 key ways: volume, speed, and algorithms.
The algorithmic amplification.
Right. Think about what a social media platform is designed to reward. It's designed to reward engagement.
Clicks, likes, shares, comments.
And what engages people most effectively: simplicity, confidence, outrage, strong identity signals.
A nuanced 3-paragraph explanation of how a new tariff works is not going to go viral.
Not a chance. It gets scrolled right past. It's too much work. It creates cognitive friction. But a four-word slogan in all caps with an angry emoji,
That goes viral.
that goes viral. The algorithm naturally selects for rhyme as reason. It selects for the illusion of depth. It pushes content that feels true instantly without requiring you to click read more or think for more than half a second.
And the attention economy just pours fuel on that fire. We're scrolling so fast, we don't have time to check the mechanism of an idea. We only have time to check the vibe.
We are scanning for patterns at incredible speed. Does this look like something my team says? Yes. Like, share. It's rapid-fire pattern matching, not deep reading.
Nuance is slow food. Social media is fast food.
That's it. Social media gives you the empty calories, the feeling of being informed, without any of the actual nutrients of understanding.
There's also this feeling of isolation that comes with this. The source material mentioned the spotlight effect in reverse. What is that?
Yeah, this is so important for anyone listening who feels like they are taking crazy pills lately.
Mm-hmm.
When you start noticing these illusions, when you see the slogans for what they are, you can feel incredibly lonely.
You look at your feed, you look at the news, and you think, does nobody else see that this is just a rhyme? Does nobody else see that this is a label without a mechanism?
Exactly. You feel like the lone, sane person in a world of bots. But because of that pluralistic ignorance we talked about earlier,
Right, everyone is quiet.
most of the people who are seeing through the BS are quiet. The people who are amplifying the BS are very, very loud. So you vastly underestimate how many other people are seeing the same thing you are.
You assume if other people notice, they'd be speaking up.
And they assume the same thing of you.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this huge silent majority of people who are privately skeptical, but they're completely invisible to each other.
That is actually kind of comforting. I'm not alone. Everyone else is just also hiding in the bathroom to avoid the conversation.
Exactly. You are part of a hidden cohort of people who are rolling their eyes internally. You just can't see them rolling their eyes because they aren't posting about it.
So we've arrived at the final section, part 6. Fork in the road. We now know that our brains hack reality with rhymes. We know we fake understanding with labels. We know we mistake confidence for competence. And we know that social pressure keeps us quiet. It's kind of a bleak picture when you lay it all out.
It can be. It can feel that way. And this is where the divergence happens. When you realize that so much of human communication is full of fluff and confidence games, you have two basic reactions available to you. Reaction A is cynicism.
The easy path. Everyone is an idiot. Everything is fake. I'm the only smart one here.
Right. Cynicism is easy. It's a defensive crouch. It says, people are sheep and I am surrounded by fools. But notice something really important about cynicism. It excludes the self. It says they are doing this. It positions you above the fray as an observer.
It's arrogant.
It's deeply arrogant. And then there is reaction B, which is curiosity.
What does curiosity look like in this context?
Curiosity says, wow, human thinking is really messy and flawed. And I am a human, so I must be doing this too. How interesting.
It includes the self in the problem.
It includes the self in the problem. It is humble. It asks, where am I using slogans instead of arguments? Where is my confidence outstripping my actual competence? When do I nod along to keep the peace?
That is a much tougher pill to swallow. To admit that I also rely on slogans, that I also confuse confidence with competence all the time.
But it's the only productive path forward. Because awareness, just knowing about this stuff, isn't the cure-all. Knowing about the illusion of explanatory depth doesn't magically stop you from having it.
Or you still do it.
All the time. I'll be in the middle of arguing about some topic and I'll have this little voice in my head go, wait a minute, you actually don't know the mechanism here. You're just repeating a headline you read 3 weeks ago.
So awareness doesn't fix it. It just gives you a little pause button.
Yes. It gives you a little red flag. It allows you to self-correct. It allows you to be more comfortable with uncertainty. It allows you to say the 3 most powerful words in intellectual life. I don't know.
And it changes how you listen to others, too. And the goal isn't to become the logic police, right? I shouldn't go to that dinner party and just start dismantling everyone's idioms.
Please, please don't do that. You will not get invited back. The goal is to learn to understand the mode of the conversation.
The mode.
Is this conversation in bonding mode or problem-solving mode? If we are in bonding mode, let the slogans fly. It's fine. It's social glue. It's part of how we connect. But if we are trying to solve a serious problem, if we're making a hiring decision or voting on a policy or planning a project, then you need to gently try to switch the mode.
And that's when you ask, okay, but what's the actual mechanism here? What are the trade-offs we're not talking about?
Exactly. You do it gently, but you do it.
It's about reframing the imperfection, I guess. The source material made a great point that has stuck with me. Civilization works despite all these flaws. we're still here.
It does. It's a miracle, really. We have something called distributed competence. You don't need to know how the toilet works because the plumber knows how the toilet works. You don't need to understand astrophysics because the astrophysicist does. We don't all need to be experts in everything.
We just need to trust the right people and, more importantly, know where the edges of our own knowledge are.
That's the key. It's about intellectual humility. It's shifting your mindset from people are stupid to people are, like me, just trying to optimize for cognitive ease and social safety.
It's a much more compassionate view.
It has to be.
This has been, honestly, a bit of a therapy session for my own brain. Let's just recap the big points quickly before we go.
Number 1, rhyme is reason. If it sounds good, we think it's true. Don't let the shiny packaging fool you. Use the reverse it test. Strip away the rhyme and see if the reason still holds up.
Number 2, the illusion of depth. We confuse our labels with real explanations, always try to dig for the mechanism. Ask, how does this work, step by step? And don't be afraid to find the gaps in your own knowledge. It's where the learning starts.
Number 3, confidence versus competence. Remember, they are two totally different things. Confidence is a feeling. Competence is a fact. Be wary of the person who has zero doubt. Look for the person who sees and respects the complexity.
And number 4, social silence. We stay quiet to keep the peace. Don't mistake that silence for agreement. There are probably a lot of other people in the room who are just as skeptical as you are.
And the big takeaway is to choose curiosity over cynicism.
Be skeptical of ideas.
But patient with people, including yourself.
I love that. Be skeptical of ideas, but patient with people. Okay, here is a final provocative thought for you to carry around this week. Think about the one thing you feel most certain about right now. It could be a political belief, a parenting philosophy, a health regimen, anything. If you had to explain the mechanism of why it works, step by step, without using any of the buzzwords or labels associated with it, could you do it? Or are you maybe just carrying a very, very polished slogan?
That is the question. And it's a good one to end on.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.
See you then.